Is your trust a ticking time bomb? And what can you do about it? Living trust mistake number 2, failure to protect future generations, and really what you need to know. So this is the second big mistake we often see from people really who don't work with us, because if you work with us, we'd at least go over these issues, and some of our clients don't always do it up front. But I want you to take just a moment to think about all the sacrifices you made to leave assets for future generations. Now imagine all of that hard work and all those assets you've built up, all the times you decided to fly coach instead of first class, or to stay in the mountain view room rather than the ocean view room, or to get the chicken rather than the filet mignon, or all those decisions, all those investments you worked so hard for, the lucky investments, the not so lucky, all those steps you took to protect assets and to hopefully build a safety net for yourself and for future generations. Imagine all of that, or a big chunk of it, being lost to an ex-husband of your daughter, or to a lawsuit when your son or your daughter is sued. A living trust, and this is where your living trust itself might not be a ticking time bomb, but thinking that it's enough, that could be a ticking time bomb, because your family could be met with some very rude surprises if they think that, oh, well, we have a living trust, we're good. The tale of supercharging a plan. I'm going to decipher what happened here, this mystery. So Larry's father leaves him $2 million. Larry, during his life, endures a divorce. He gets sued after a car accident. None of this $2 million that was left for Larry is there for Larry's children. And of course, nothing's there for his grandchildren. Wyatt, on the other hand, also inherits $2 million, or $2 million is left for Wyatt's benefit. Wyatt also gets divorced. Wyatt also gets sued, same life. But because of some different steps that Wyatt's parents took, Wyatt's children end up with $6 million from his inheritance, and his grandchildren end up with $18 million from that original $2 million. And this is where we have to think about the power of compound growth, because money that's protected, assets that are protected, have the chance to grow and grow and grow. And if they're just invested reasonably, they can double every 10 to 15 years. And compound growth is a powerful thing. So you might start off with a number that doesn't seem massive, and it can become massive if it's protected. A quick overview on trusts. Now, this is oversimplifying things, but there are generally 2 categories: revocable trust or revocable trust, and irrevocable trust or irrevocable trust. The pronunciation always confuses me. My dad always says irrevocable, and I think it's irrevocable. I don't know. Revocable living trusts, whether you're a couple or single, do not protect your kids or you from divorce, from lawsuits. They can provide some protection from estate taxes depending on the structure, but not massive protections. They definitely don't protect from future property tax increases. You're thinking, okay, well, Mark, that's great, but you keep telling me to do a revocable living trust. You definitely need it. But I'm going to talk about the additional tools you need to take your plan to the next level. And what can we do here? So this is about taking your plan from the floor to the mountaintop. So imagine right now, if you just have a very simple estate plan, hey, you're on the road, you're moving forward. But how do you get to the mountaintops? How do you get above what most families are doing? Because most families aren't aware of this. How can you protect future generations? Don't leave them anything. Don't leave your kids, your grandkids a penny. And that's how you protect assets. Future generations. Not leaving assets to the next generation. Well, I guess they're protected from some protection from divorce and lawsuits because they have no money from you. But that's not what I mean. You should not leave them even 1 cent. Instead, you should create a family protection trust for every one of your kids. If you have 2 kids, you should have 2 family protection trusts, aka Dynasty Trusts. You should not leave money to your kids. You should leave them to Dynasty Trusts, or our version, Family Protection Trusts, for their benefit. There's no shortage of information out there about Dynasty Trusts. You can Google it. We think every family, middle class, upper middle class, everybody should have the chance. Hardworking middle class families should have the chance to protect assets for future generations. Now, the general term dynasty trusts, I get why people are like, whoa, because what do you think of when you think of the term dynasty trust? You probably have an image sort of like this, right? Like a gigantic mansion. Dynasty trusts are not just for billionaires, although billionaire families have been doing these for generations. We can all benefit from them. Well, there's 3 huge areas of protection. So if you're concerned about your leaving assets to your son or your daughter, and you're concerned about them getting divorced, well, assets, if you leave it to them directly and they commingle, 50% of what you leave them could be lost. If it's in a family protection trust, it's separate and it shouldn't be reachable in a divorce settlement. If your child is sued, if you leave money directly to them, it's fair game in a lawsuit. If it's in a family protection trust, there's a barrier of protection against creditors and people suing them. Now, nothing's 100%, but it's a heck of a lot better than having nothing at all. And this is really powerful. On the death of your child, and when assets go to your kids, and even on the death of your grandchildren, if you have these in place, The assets in the family protection trust, subject to some limits, are not touched by estate taxes. So let's say you have a child, maybe you're not leaving that much to your child, but your child's doing really well and they have a pretty large estate. If they have a large estate and you leave them money directly, you just added to their estate and everything you left them could be exposed to estate taxes, or maybe estate tax laws change in the future. The estate tax exemption could drop dramatically. So even if you don't have a large estate, if you leave money directly to your kids, that could get massively hit before assets go to your grandkids. If it's in a family protection trust, it is largely protected from estate taxes when your kids pass away and when your grandkids pass away, because here's the amazing thing. These trusts last for like 100 years. And you might think, okay, well, this is cool, but I don't want to tie my kids' hands. They're trustworthy. I think they can manage this. You can name your child to be the trustee of his or her trust after you're gone, subject to age limits if you want. It's really powerful. It can provide incredible peace of mind and protection for multiple generations. These last for about 100 years in California. So they can go for your kids, your grandkids, and even for your great-grandkids. And no, they are not just for the ultra-wealthy. And you don't have to just take my word for it. Michael Gilfix is obviously not here, but he just published an article in Bottom Line magazine. It's an amazing magazine that I read independently of this. And he wrote an article about the power of dynasty trusts and why families throughout America should really be putting these into place. So let's go back to that tale of supercharging a plan. Larry's father left him $2 million. He gets divorced. He gets into a lawsuit. By the time Larry passes away, zero is left for his kids and, of course, nothing for his grandkids. Wyatt, on the other hand, that $2 million, by the time Wyatt also gets divorced, Wyatt also is sued. Imagine parallel life to Larry, same type of life situation. But when he passes away, $6 million there for his kids and $18 million for his grandkids, because Wyatt's father created a family protection trust and didn't leave a penny to Wyatt. He left it to a family protection trust for Wyatt's benefit. So when Wyatt got divorced, those assets were separate. They weren't commingled. They weren't lost in a divorce settlement. When Wyatt was sued, the person suing him saw that trust and said, I'm going to settle for pennies on the dollar. I'm not going after this. All that money was able to grow. It was invested reasonably. He used it to support himself, but it was still able to grow. Grew to $6 million by the time he passed. The trust continued through his children's lives. They were protected from divorce and lawsuits, untouched by estate taxes when it went from his kids to his grandkids, and it had grown to $18 million at that point, untouched by estate taxes. So that's where you have to think ahead. It's so powerful. And I hate to say it, but the families that are creating these now, when you look at generation or two generations ahead, they're going to be so far ahead of the families that don't create family protection trusts right now. And we don't want you to be left behind. And again, these need to be separate from your living trust. Once in a while, I'll see clients, and they have a trust from a while ago, and they say, oh, well, I have this terminology embedded in my living trust. So when I pass away, it sort of goes to these dynasty trusts for my kids. There are a lot of reasons why we do not believe that's a good approach. It should be separate entities, separate documents. You have your living trust, and you don't leave it within your living trust with Dynasty's trusts within that. We encourage you to meet with us. You can contact us at 650-493-8070 or gilfix.com. I hope you got a lot out of this, and I hope everybody's staying safe, sane, and healthy. I hope everybody takes care. See you later.